Thanks and welcome for doing the quarantine edition of On the Docks on the Rocks. Of course, the audience can see that we're all practicing our social distancing and mandates correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys want to start with who you are and kind of what you do, because I know London, I know Mariah a little bit just in person, and then I don't know how do you say your name again? Katia?
My name is pronounced Kazia.
Kavia?
Kazia.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Kazia, how do you spell it?
It's Kayzia.
Kazia. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I might mess it up. I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
It's a beautiful name.
Thank you. My mom found it in a graveyard.
That's a graveyard?
In Utah.
It's like a name with a story.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, whoever wants to go first, or I can just call you out. However.
If you want to call us out, I think we need structure.
Awesome. Then you go first since you spoke first, Kazia. You're up.
Okay.
What do you do?
My name's Kazia. I'm 28. I have been participating in the commercial fishing industry for 8 or 9 seasons. I can't remember. And I specifically work in the mechanical field. I used to run 2 commercial stainless steel ice making machines. It had an enclosed ammonia system, and then now I have been working as an engineer on several commercial fishing tenders that have refrigeration systems, and I'm also a welder. My specialty being aluminum.
Cool. I bet you're gonna have some rad stories for us. Awesome. Mariah, you want to go next?
Oh, sure. So I'm Mariah. I let's see, spent about a decade in the commercial fisheries doing I can't say all of them, but most of them around Alaska and a few down the coast, trolling and long lining and albacore and seining and some of this, some of that. Anyway, I then transitioned into the big ship realm and spent some time working on the Alaska Marine Highway ferries and some other tall ships around the world, things like that. Ended up getting messed up pretty badly in 2013 in an accident on a big ship. And that effectively ended my fishing career in the context of, hauling 200-pound halibut over the rail. My arm and shoulders all kind of rebuilt. So I started running salmon tenders. I've done that for 5 years up in Prince William Sound, though I may transition down to Southeast this year. Who knows what's going to happen this year. Anyway, so salmon tending, and then this is my 4th year that I've been teaching at the University of Alaska Southeast in the marine transportation program. So yeah, that's sort of the Cliff's Notes.
And London, you're up. Thank you, Mariah.
Me. My name's London, and I started fishing in 2012. And that was in Prince William Sound. I was on a purse seiner, and I had never fished before that time at all. I didn't know anything about fishing. I'm from the Midwest, and there's really not that much fishing down there. But a friend of mine had brought me up. She thought I would like it, and she kind of hates fishing, and I ended up really enjoying it. So I kept coming up after that, and continuously to Prince William Sound up until 2017. I went down to Southeast, and I worked on seiners down there. And then I started squid seining in California in 2017, at the end of 2017. And so, yeah, and I keep going up to Alaska, and sometimes I gill net. Most of the time I seine. This year I'll be going up to Bristol Bay for the first time, so I'll just be gill netting most of that season. And I met Mariah this past year on a tender. It was the first time I had ever tendered, and I filled in for a week, and that was really awesome. The crew and the captain, who was Mariah, they were all really great, and we all got along super well. Tendering ended up being I thought it was really fun, probably because the crew got along well. But Mariah told me about the Quinine program that was in Ketchikan, so I completed that in December, and it got me interested in refrigeration. So I think this next year I'm going to go up to Bellingham and go take their 2-year program for refrigeration for like on boats, on land systems.
Cool.
Awesome.
So I guess I always find it fascinating how people got into what they're doing. So I know, London, you mentioned you were from the Midwest and you had a friend that kind of got you into fishing, but what about
Mhm.
you guys? Like, I guess where do you hail from, and how did you wind up in the fishing industry or working on boats?
You want to go first, Kezia?
Okay, sure. I panicked, obviously. So actually, believe it or not, I'm actually from Westport, Washington, which used to be the crab capital of the world for many, many years in the 80s. At least that's what all the captains tell me. So I'm actually in Westport, yeah. So I'm from Westport, and I absolutely abhorred the fishing industry. I hated it. I hated the people who did it. I hated all the parts of it. I didn't like the docks. Like, it turns out the part of the industry that I was interacting with was charter fishing. So my concept of like commercial fishing and charter fishing were one and the same. And, you know, all the chartered fishing guys are douchebags. So I was just like, I'm never going to participate in this. So I actually went to trade school. I became a welder, and then I was a union pipe fitter at Local 44. It was the worst year of my entire life. It was horrible of working there. It was, yeah, it really sucked. And one of my friends was just like, hey, do you want a new lease on life? I've got this position. They need somebody who can talk and speak and do basic things to run this fish buying station. Will you come up? So I ended up just going on a whim. And to me, that's really important. I realized that like legacy is a very important thing to many people in the fishing industry. But I really pride myself on being a person who came with no help, with no support, just up by myself. And I had to figure it out alone. And I didn't have family members. And I do think that, I mean, it's definitely a tradition. And it's an honor to be a part of those things, but it's also to take that other route and go up by yourself and claw out a space for yourself alone is I mean, I really hold that as like one of my main sense of pride. So yeah, I just ended up being in a fish buying station there. And I remember one of my two bosses, he met me down at the float plane dock. And the first thing he said to his wife, who was his partner, was, we made the biggest mistake. Why did we are idiots. We hired this girl. She's got all these tattoos and piercings. What have we done? You know? And it ended up working out really well. I'm sorry, what?
So was your hair also blue at the time?
Yes, it's always some color. It's always some, and I have many can't really see, but I have many a tattoo.
Nice.
So yeah, that's how I ended up in Alaska. Is just I guess on a whim.
Yeah. I feel like most of the story, I know, like mine's similar. I don't fish or anything, but it was like a friend who recommends it. They're like, or I think her words were like, this is like your kind of place. And I was like, well, what does that mean? You know, and then lo and behold, here I am 3 years later. I guess it was my place. What about you, Mariah?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in Alaska. I grew up out in a little fishing town called Edna Bay with a population of about 65 people, but no one in my family was involved in the commercial fisheries. In fact, apparently the last commercial fisherman in the family before me was my grandmother's father, who would travel from the Midwest to Petersburg in the 1920s and 30s and fish on the halibut schooners because they were all Norwegian. Wow. And of course, Petersburg's all Norwegian and Swedish. So apparently that was the last one. But I was in college. It was the spring of my sophomore year. And I got an email out of the blue, a friend referring me to a friend. She had known that I was interested in going fishing. And her friend, Deborah Page, who'd been fishing out of Elfin Cove for about 30 years at that point. She co-fished with her husband. They're both captains, so they each have their own boat, anchor up together at night. Anyway, so I got my first fishing job there, and then just as Kezia was saying, it's very much kind of once you're into the industry, then that captain can refer you to other boats, sort of moving up through the ranks, bigger and better boats. I was working on freezer trawlers. Once I finished college, then I was able to start doing the winter fisheries as well. I started winter longlining for halibut and doing, these other things as well in the winter with boats. Going and doing tall ship deliveries around the world, using it as a venue for travel. But that was kind of how I got into the commercial fisheries in the first place, was via a very dear friend, Megan Emerson, whose dad was a commercial fisherman, and Deborah Page was one of his running partners. So she put out the call, I'm looking for a deckhand, and I really liked my experiences with having women on the boat. And I kind of tossed my hat in the ring, and we're dear friends to this day. She's one of my lifetime heroes.
Gosh, it sounds like, I don't want to say like the mafia, but like you guys keep talking about, it's all about who you know or who you kind of worked with. Once you kind of are not a greenhorn anymore, do you start to get just as picky about your captains, or do you find like once you have
oh yeah
like a good like once you have a good captain, you're like ride or die, that's it.
Yeah, there's a lot of captains who are just completely inappropriate. And they're like really creepy or misogynistic, or maybe they have a reputation of not paying people, or the list goes on and on, or not being safe. Even like, I wouldn't want to work for someone who wasn't safe and cared about everybody else's safety on the boat. I have before, and it was not fun. And he wasn't a creep, but he didn't put our safety first.
Yeah, I think most people who've been around the fisheries for very long, it's part of the benefit of once you're kind of in and have enough people you can ask, is this a safe boat where I've been offered a job? Because almost everyone has some experience, and I certainly have an experience of, you get the captain who's, let's see, it kind of checked all the boxes. I had the creepy captain who didn't pay me for the last several trips, and who was a screamer, and who was completely unsafe.
Yeah.
And afterward, I had multiple people in the years afterward be like, oh, I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know you well enough yet to tell you that was a really bad boat to step aboard. I'm like, well, I wish you just told me.
Yeah, that's not an excuse.
Yeah. I worked for a creepy captain who was not a screamer, but he was like, oh my gosh, such a creep. And it was him and his two twin sons who were in their 50s, and the sons weren't nearly as creepy, but they were super homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic. And then their dad would just like fetishize all of that. It was such a weird, so weird.
Yeah.
So weird. Yeah, you never want to work for people like that. And one of the girls in previous years, or who had worked for him in previous years later, was like, oh yeah, I wish I would have told you. And it's like, I would have told you. Like, what the hell?
Like a message where there should be like an anonymous message board that you can go to. I think like back in the early 2000s they had one that was like doNotDateHim.com.
Yeah, girl, don't date him.
You should do like
there is something a little bit. I've never really checked it. But I know there's the what is it? The tide. The
strength of the tide is hers also.
Yeah, the strength of the tide is hers also. You can go to them and they'll tell you, like, they will let you know who's creepy and who's not. It's more than just a Facebook group, but it's more of like a message.
They actually have a stencil. I've met up with Elma before, and they actually have a stencil that says the strength of the tides are hers also. And the idea is that you can take the stencil and you can spray paint somewhere on the outside of your boat or hang it up in the window. And when a woman is out and she's not safe, or maybe something's been going on or it's late at night, she knows that she can go knock on your door and it's a safe place for her to stay if she's in the harbor or whatever. Is the idea.
That's awesome. I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So
yeah, I haven't seen that on anyone's boat yet. We should. I don't think many people know. I don't think many captains know about the stencil.
I will say that we got the stencil while we were in Bellingham prepping the Deer Harbor 2 to go up to Wrangell. And that's when we met Elma, and we had a bunch of women on the boats for the run up, and she gave us the stencil then. So the Deer Harbor does have the stencil. So when you go to SPC, Mariah, you'll have access. There'll be a stencil there. And they should, I mean, you know, I want more people to put up those stencils and more people to understand what it's for.
Oh, and that's a fantastic idea, especially for like on a tender, because we, you know, we take care of the fleet. Then, you know, someone sees it aboard, they're stuck on the boat. Maybe they're like, yeah, I'm bailing. I need the ride to town.
Yes.
I'm stuck in a safe place.
We have, I have picked up women before. We have picked up on our tender, picked up women who are uncomfortable on their boat and taken them back to Sitka where it was safe. I mean, it's shit goes south and you got to get out of there. So, you know,
it's very isolating if you're not in the harbor.
Yeah.
Do you guys now predominantly work with all women crew or still mix? What does your crew situations look like?
So I exclusively used to only work with female crews. In Pelican, we had the Shoreline Scow, which is a troll tender barge. And then we had the Pelican Ice Chute in town. So that was 3 crews of 3 women. So I used to exclusively work with women. And now since I have changed my job and now I'm working out on the water, I have been working with almost no women other than my captain's wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have run crews of predominantly women. There's always been at least one guy on the boat. The boat that I run's a crew of 4, and it's been 3 out of 4 of us have been women most of the time.
Cool.
Yeah, I work with a mix. It just depends on what I'm doing. Usually, seining, I'm usually working with guys. Sometimes there's a woman, but not often when I'm like salmon seining. But when I'm squid seining, it's always been a mix. There's a lot more women in that industry. And I've gill netted with just women. But I think this year it'll be just guys that I'm working with.
Yeah, in the fisheries, I've experienced kind of the full spectrum of all women crews, or often being the only woman on a crew, or some mix.
Yeah.
It's varied.
It is really nice to see more women and have more women to work with. That's definitely, I feel like that's experience of like when I first started fishing, there really weren't that many women. And now there's a lot more women, and I've worked with a lot more women since then.
Yeah, as it grows. To circle back, so before we kind of got started, we were all talking about obviously the like number one thing on people's minds, COVID-19. How has that affected you guys, or how are you dealing with it? How are the uncertainties of this paired with the uncertainty of the fishing industry? Like, how's that? What's happening?
It's nerve-wracking.
Who's scared? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Everything's just so uncertain right now. And we're just, I mean, experts are saying that we're like just in the beginning. So it will be, and to just how our administration is going to handle things too, and the advice that they give out. Like, I just really hope people do what's best for everyone and not just for themselves.
Yeah, with regard to the fisheries, there's so many unknowns at this point. So it's, you know, communicating both with the plant up in Cordova, I've run the boat for the last 5 years, and the plant down in Sitka, I'm probably going to run one for this year. You know, in Sitka, they're saying they're probably pretty well positioned as far as getting plant workers and whatnot. Up in Cordova, they're really concerned. The same reasons you were talking about earlier. You know, how do you get people in when there's this mandatory quarantine of 2 weeks after arrival, and then once they're here, you know, are the fish plants considered a vital service that people are actually allowed to continue working, especially when they're eating together in a chow hall, shoulder to shoulder. They're, you know, sleeping in bunk houses with multiple bunks to a room. You know, working in the. I'm not sure how it's going to work. So that, in addition to all the questions about what's going to happen with our markets. Right. So I think no one really knows what to expect at that point.
Well, and to talk about what Mariah was talking about, like part of the reason why people quarantine on cruise ships did so poorly is because the cruise ship shares an air system. It shares an air duct system. So that's same with the processing plant, and it's the same with the crew quarters, the bunks. Like at Silver Bay and Valdez, we just have, I think they have 2 single wide trailers next to each other, and then they've just stacked like 6 high, 2 next to each other of these trailers, and they're all interconnected and they're all shared. And I just don't see, if someone's ill, it's going to make everybody else sick, just because of the way it's set up. So, I mean, I don't know. I was thinking, will the virus be able to withstand the cold temperatures that they maintain inside the fish processing plant? I don't know. I mean, they're already disinfecting and cleaning on a regular basis. I mean, they are doing a lot of those things. And I mean, a massive amount of the population in Alaska is employed or working with or in conjunction with the fishing industry. Like, what is everybody going to do if like 70% of the population doesn't have any work?
Well, if you pair the fishermen,
So I think that, yeah, I mean, they will literally have nothing, and everybody's banking on the fishing industry. So I think that they need to. I don't know. I don't see how it's not vital to the Alaska.
I don't think they're going to shut it.
Sorry, hold on one second, Lyndon. When does the fishing season start? Like, is it May or June?
What kind of fishing?
Oh, sorry, buddy.
Meeting starts in May, so tenders would be up there in end of April, beginning of May. People are starting to work on their boats typically around May if you're gill netting. It usually opens like around May 10th, or it's like the first Thursday or something. It's yeah.
So are you guys still?
But then in Bristol Bay, I don't need to be up there until June 14th. So it just depends on what district you're in and what type of fishery you're a part of. There's fishing going on right now for black cod.
Well, I mean, and there's winter kings or spring king, or are they doing spring kings right now, Mariah?
Not sure.
No, I'm cut off from the trolling industry.
I think they just finished spring kings. I have a friend, my friend Noah was just crabbing, and he got done a couple weeks ago, and then he just started, I believe, yesterday or the day before, black cod fishing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have friends who are out crabbing right now too.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my next question would be, it's still kind of too soon to tell what this is going to do to the industry. It's just a slight minor freak out at the moment,
I don't think they're going to close the fishery. That is a vital industry. I mean, one of the things that fishermen love to pride themselves on is that we're feeding the world, and that is vital. We are feeding the world, and canned products have gone up way higher since people are in quarantine and panic buying and stocking up and making sure that they have everything. So they're going to need fishermen. I don't think they're going to shut down the fisheries at all. I think
it seems like
we need that.
It seems like the potential issue is far more on the shore side, really, because fishing is one thing that people can actually do and continue contributing while social isolating. A lot of my Cordova fleet, they don't even have another person out on the boat. Even if you had another person, you're essentially in quarantine. People go across the sound and stay there for the entire summer.
Right.
We can actually be the conduit between them, interacting with them and interacting with people in town. But if there was some way to figure out social distancing as well, or careful practices while handing off fish tickets, it all comes back to shoreside. How are the plants actually going to safely operate? Because I think the actual fisheries and the actual tendering side of things could be done safely. I just don't know what they're going to do about processing.
Interesting.
Do you think they're going to put more processing boats out in the fleet? I mean, you still have like hundreds of people on a boat in close contact, but if they're quarantined 2 weeks beforehand and then are on this boat together and nobody has it, they wouldn't be interacting with the rest of the town or public.
Yeah, it would be a huge switch to make when right now all of the infrastructure is land based. Maybe
Yeah.
long term, if this was a long term problem, you could like drag in factory trawlers. Maybe the processing plants could hire a factory trawler to be a at sea processing, but pretty much anywhere where you have much of a group of people, it's so hard to prevent spread.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just
Interesting.
to kind of move from, get the gloomy out of the way. I guess like what what comes to mind as like one of the best days you've had on a boat? Like what was that day like? And
The
like
best thing, like the best
Ooh.
the
food,
best day, like the overall best day. Like
the
maybe you
best
didn't have the
food.
biggest catch, or maybe like I obviously don't know how it works, but
I don't know. I think
I
probably the best day for, I mean, anyone who's commercially fished is like when you fill up the boat.
mhm.
That is that's a pretty good
But
day.
I guess
When
like
you
the
can
best
make
thing
like
is, are there other
1,000, 2,000, 6,000. Huh?
are there other aspects that make it great or that make a good day on the boat? Like obviously
Oh
it's
my
the
gosh, having the
job.
fish come up all the way to like your hips. I mean, that's really fun. That's
Well, so one of the fun things about tendering, it's been really interesting to see. So as a tender, you have certain measures of success, but it's not the same as, oh my gosh, we just like filled up the boat and made a bunch of money. Tend to be on a daily rate. But many of the other things that I've enjoyed so much about the commercial fisheries are very much still the case. Like the you mentioned the crew interpersonal interactions, London, like the fun of working together as a crew and sort of the hilarity that ensues. Sometimes even when you're really sleep deprived and things
yeah.
it's the best time.
working together have like there are all these in jokes at this point. So I don't know. There tends to be really a lot of laughter. I think some of my favorite memories from the tender fleet are of times when after being really tired for a really long time, we had a little bit of a break and we got to anchor up and everyone caught up on sleep. And then the amount of energy that just comes pouring back into your body when you're sleep deprived, like weeks or months into sleep deprivation, and you actually get to catch up on sleep. And the level of energy is amazing. There have been hours long dance parties in the wheelhouse, like going to shore and just like running around in circles, like puppies. It's yeah. Anyway, so the measures of success are maybe a bit different on the tendering side of things, and I miss the days of filling up the hold and that like heart pounding success. But I don't know. Since you don't have that so much in tendering, maybe you enjoy those other things more. I really love the family that a crew becomes.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have a good crew, that is like one of the most delightful things. Yeah, your days off when you're not loading up your boat, your days off can be really fun. Going to shore and hiking, getting berries, jumping off of the wheelhouse into the water, beating your crewmates at Catan.
Oh, yes.
What happens when the fish are up to your hips, or you're up to your hips in fish?
Oh my gosh, when you're like vagina deep in fish, it's
Yeah.
so ridiculous. It's like, okay, it's
Are
like
you ever
really.
scared for your vagina?
Wait, what? What?
Are you ever scared for
I
your
got my
vagina?
ring gear on, so there's like no. Anyway, I mean, it's kind of a stressful time to be honest, because your boat is like at such an angle and your captain has to like work the hydros just right to be able to like pull up the right amount of fish and to like bring them on board. And I mean, you have to make sure like everything is running smoothly and like people aren't being hit with something, or there's like a lot going on. So it's definitely kind of stressful because a lot of things can go wrong. But if everything's like running smoothly and the fish are just like pouring on, you have to like kick them all into the fish hole too. So there's like you're exerting a lot of energy physically. But like once that's done, you and your crewmates are like high-fiving and like so stoked. Like so stoked on life.
So,
Yeah.
I guess in those moments, has anyone ever like totally busted it on a fish? Like you're kicking these fish in the hold, and then all of a sudden
Oh
they're like
man.
feet up over your head. on the deck.
Oh, like people falling into the fish hold or something, or like.
Oh, there's a whole other element. I didn't even think about falling into the fish hole. I was just thinking about falling in general. But oh my god,
Yeah.
what if you fell in the fish hole?
Oh, it's one of the most terrifying things to me. I'm very scared of like being sucked under and just like breathing in fish and fish guts and water, and that never happens. I've never seen that happen. It hopefully will never happen.
But I guess just
It happened to. Are you knocking on wood?
Yeah, I'm knocking on wood.
It happened to a crewman in Cordova my first year there in 2015. A lady fell into the fish hold, and it was chilled. I mean, that's one of the things about falling into a fish hold is it's like right at freezing. Anyway, they hauled her back out. She was okay, but yeah, very very scary thing to happen.
How quick is the response time on that?
Quick. You got to get him out. The kid on the Golden Pacific fell in last year, and they have a super tall boat, super deep hold. London's been on it, and he completely and totally disappeared, dropped down, and they had to take 4 people and like just reach down and just plunge and grab him and rip him out, because I mean his boots were filling up with water. It was 30 degrees, you know. Yeah, you got to get that guy out of there. There's no ladder, you know.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah. Oh, pay attention. Don't be a dumbass. Those are my suggestions.
Those are really good suggestions. Also, like I'm usually holding on to something whenever I'm like shoveling fish in, or like I'm not, or I have a shovel and I'm not moving. My feet are planted, so I'm just like shoveling fish. But you know, a lot of times you're using your feet as well. Yeah, just like, I mean, if you're like a skier or snowboarder, like you want to keep your feet planted, right? It's like making sure that if you're going to lift one foot, you have another foot that is steady and planted, and keep your center of balance.
That leads me to I guess my next question is, and I'm trying to think about how to frame it. So I guess what's the funniest way you or someone you know have gotten hurt on the boat? And I'm not like talking seriously hurt. I'm talking like America's Funniest Home Videos hurt, where it's like,
oh my god,
no one's broken a hip, but like you kind of just felt silly.
Oh god, that's like every day of my life.
Yeah. Last year, I had several good friends working on the Boulder Bay, the old Boulder Bay, not the new Boulder Bay, for London. But we had their skiff man, Ben. I really, really enjoyed his company, and he was super smart and funny. But every single time he tried to move from the skiff to their boat, or from our boat to their boat, or anything, he would always fall halfway into the water, and he would catch himself. And he was a big guy. And it was just like, Jesus, Ben, like if you can't figure out, we're not going to, he did it 4 different times where he would like scare the shit out of himself, but it always was calm, you know, which is God, he's so lucky. But it's like, how do you keep doing, like you keep like halfway falling into the water. How are you doing this? Like, I don't understand.
No, that's an excellent story. I can't, gosh, I feel like I should be able to come up with one, but all the stories of people getting hurt on boats are so unfunny to me. I'm trying to think of a fun, lighthearted one, but most of them are just grisly and horrible.
Oh my gosh.
That's true.
No grizzly. I have so many dumb stories of me. I'm very klutzy. I've never like seriously injured myself, but I've like, there's like a deck board that separates like the main deck to where the net is held. And I've like tried to jump over that a couple times and like tripped over it and like fallen. One time I was at a different boat. I was at our sister boat at like a net pen that we were tied up at. And my crewmate came over and said that the rest of my crewmates had eaten all the ice cream. And I ran back and then ended up on the net pen. They had like their buoys were tires, but they would tie them up, like they would go across the walkway onto a bar on the other side, and they were like raised a little bit. And so I was like running back and I like tripped over that and scraped my knees like horribly. That was pretty bad. I've like jumped from the skiff to to the deck and like wasn't wearing the right shoes and like slipped and slided all over and like almost fell overboard, but didn't. I have so many stories of stupid times I've hurt myself.
So, do you
I
guys
broke my toe. Oh, this past year I broke my toe jumping from a fish hold to a different piece of fish hold, and I don't know how I landed, but I broke like one of my inside toes. It was horrible. It was so dumb.
I'm so like, in order to keep this lighthearted, I won't ask, but I actually am so interested in the more like gruesome horror stories of injuries and stuff, but not for here now. That's just my dark side showing. So do you guys?
I have a good one. That I have a. It's not that I mean, it's kind of gruesome, and it didn't happen. I didn't see it. This has happened like 10, 20 years ago.
Is this like a fishing boat ghost story? Like nobody knows this guy and nobody saw Timmy again. He was taken to
No, they know him. No, they know him. It's the guy who actually used to run the Aquinator, Kezia. Duke Williams, part of the Williams clan in Prince William Sound.
Did he lose?
No, he was like, he lost his arm, and the very first captain that I worked for, so he lost his arm in the deck winch.
Oh God, are you serious?
And then the first captain that I worked for was the only one who like ran back and got him and brought him to town, and they were able to sew his arm back on, and he's able to use it nowadays.
Wow.
Is it like a slightly different color? Is it like ashen gray always?
I don't know. I've actually never met. I don't think I've ever met Duke, so I don't really know. I know his brothers and have filled in on for one of them, but I've never met the oldest brother. I don't know.
Maybe he doesn't get out much. Maybe his arm's shy.
That's a big deal. Last year, the first day of the last day of the first day of the official season, not preseason AFK, we had a fisherman come in and he wanted us to offload his fish because he had sucked his deckhand into the deck winch.
Oh my God.
He wanted to offload fish first before taking his deckhand into the hospital. So don't work on that boat.
Oh my God.
So first day. Yeah. So pretty bad. Don't I could tell you later. But
wow. I'm full of all these fun. So do you guys have a favorite boat? Not one that you've worked on, but like you're in the harbor and you're like, yeah, that's a sexy boat. Like that's
ooh, that boat's so pretty.
Yeah. Like cause I know
what is it, the Saturn?
Huh? Or sorry. I know here
the Saturn.
The Saturn?
Oh, he's from Westport.
And it's like a wood boat, and it's beautiful.
It's green and gold and wood. Yeah, I've talked shit about that guy's bar to his face once.
Oh yeah. We've talked about this, Kezia. Yeah, but that boat is gorgeous.
Yes. Mine's not motorized. But I would have to say my favorite barge would be the Shoreline Scow. That's definitely the most beautiful, just aquatic thing I've ever seen. It was made in a guy's backyard in Pelican. They originally, when it was originally made, they used all their own milled wood. It's an incredible piece of work. And Mariah, if you're ever over there, stop by and the girls will let you on. Check it out. It's got a hot tub. It's got a hot totes. Yeah, on-demand hot water. Washer, dryer, everything. It's archaic and it's old, and it was made in the early 80s. But it is what? I'm sorry, what?
Where is it currently?
Ledge.
Oh, okay.
In Lysianski, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's the one that used to be, oh gosh, they called it the Shoreline.
That's it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I've sold to them.
It's the same one. They rebuilt the entire deck and all the cans, and they literally cut the house in half and used come-alongs to winch the two halves apart. They've kept it almost completely, entirely restored. It's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, when I first fished out of Elfin Cove, we would sell to them sometimes. And of course they had they called it the Christmas party because no one actually. Yeah. I've been to the Christmas party.
Christmas in July, in August.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fun. That's a
Yeah,
fun.
it used to be huge until the last year that they did it. A guy skipped into some rocks and died, and that's why they don't do it at the Scow anymore. They sometimes do it in town still.
Oh, geez.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an awful lot of people on a floating object getting really messed up, from what I recall. I remember at one point there was a splash, and we didn't know if someone had fallen in. And I don't usually really drink to excess, so I was one of the sober ones, like trying to figure out in the dark if someone had actually gone off. And
yeah,
thankfully no one had, but it always seemed like a risk.
Yeah, it was definitely a problem, and that's why they moved the party into town now when they do have it. But I mean, yeah, it was pretty renowned. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, good times. Times. I do miss it.
What about you, Mariah? What's your sexy boat? Oh, sorry.
I was just trying to look up. I was trying to look up pictures of it or remember exactly how the name is spelled. It's something like the Wanya. It's like one of the traditional halibut schooners, except it must be steel or something. It's come through Ketchikan, and then I saw it up in Cordova, and I just saw it a couple days ago here in Ketchikan. But it's this beautiful cabin aft, gorgeous lines, and it actually still has sails on it. So clearly they sometimes. And it's something like Wonya, because I remember the first time I misread it as want ya, and I was like, yeah, I do, because yeah, I love the halibut schooners, and I have a tremendous hot spot for Gulf Coast shrimper looking boats, like that low slung, high pointy bow.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, they're the G&S here in Ketchikan. Some of you might have seen it. It's red and black and white last I knew. But yeah, I was running a boat out of Ketchikan a couple of falls ago down to Nakit, and it was doing that run. So the G&S out of Ketchikan's a hottie for sure.
I remember my first summer. I'd never lived on the water, like where there were harbors, and I would just go down and walk the slips and just look at all the boats. Like I can't tell you any what type of boat that is, what type of boat that is, but I had so much fun. Just like I think I like the wooden boats, like yeah. But I wonder, like, if you had to like psychoanalyze the sexy boat and apply it to like who you are as a person, like what does your ultimate boat say about you? Just marinate on that one. Just see where that takes you. Not necessarily here, but you know, in life. So man, I don't know. Do you have any stories that just kind of like jump out? Or gosh, okay, what's like the most epic thing you've seen? I hear people, you get to see all this amazing wildlife while you're at sea. But I guess like what was that moment for you that you were like, fuck man, this is my life and it's awesome?
One that comes to mind, up in Prince William Sound, we tend to see a lot of little Dall's porpoises, and they're pretty much my favorite thing ever. They'll come and ride on your bow wake. But pretty epic, running from, oh gosh, I think from Main Bay into Whittier with a load of fish in, I think, 2015. So first year up there, all incredibly sleep deprived, doing this run through the passages there. And there were a bunch of orcas, and it was so absolutely flat comb. You couldn't just see them when they were jumping like you usually can, or finning. You could see them underneath the water, and there were multiple adults and also several calves. And it was one of the neatest things. I always remember that. But anything to do with porpoises always sets my heart aflutter.
Several years ago on the Deer Harbor, when I worked for SPC, we went to this spot up along the coast. It's Deuce Islands, behind Deuce Islands, which I hated that name. So we got there at night and anchored up, and it was a new spot that Amber had never anchored before. My captain is a 37-year-old badass woman. And so we anchored at night, and nobody really knew what was going on. And the next morning we got up, and it looked like we were in fucking Jurassic Park. It looked like we were in absolute just like Jurassic period. There was these ferns everywhere, these crazy peaks. I mean, I thought that we had woken up in Jurassic Park, and we went to shore that day and found a bunch of old clay pieces. And it's just, it just, sometimes I'll talk to locals and they'll be like, look, another pelican or another animal. And they just get all, a lot of people have been really jaded or desensitized over the years, but it's just like, it just never gets old. The landscape never gets old.
It really doesn't. It's definitely like pulled me out of gloomy days too, like where like times that I worked on boats where I didn't necessarily like the crew and we didn't get along, and it's been raining and gloomy for days, and then you get a sunny day and you like look up when you're stacking gear and you're like, oh yeah, this is why I do it, because you just have the most beautiful landscape in front of you. Alaska's great. Alaska's really gorgeous. There's an endless number of beautiful things that are up there. But I think my favorite memories or like beautiful nature things that I've seen would probably be in California. We took a boat down from Ballard down to Southern California, and just like the number of whales that I saw breaching there. I've seen whales breach in Alaska, but just not as many. Maybe it was like a migratory time, but there were tons that were breaching on our trip down there. And then down in Ventura, every once in a while, when you're like, because you're constantly driving the boat out to the fishing grounds, back into town to deliver, and then back out to the fishing grounds. And I have seen as far as my eyes could see, which isn't very far, but I can't see very far without my glasses. But I mean, it was just like endless of all these dolphins that were migrating from wherever to wherever. And but just like, I mean, it must have been like a mile or more. It was just amazing. I've never seen that many porpoise at one time.
Yeah, I've seen that. I right after college, I bought a sailboat in San Diego with two of my best friends, and we spent about a year down there on it, and ended up sailing up to San Francisco. And along the way, several different times, we had giant groups of Pacific whiteside dolphins join us, and it was just like dolphins as far as the eye could see. That was that was one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of close with, because it's 4:00 now, which we can gladly keep chatting, but this will be my last question. And we've talked about all the different aspects, but ultimately, like, what is your favorite part of what you do? Like the whole thing. Is it
I think the
vagina deep in fish?
I think at first it was probably money. I think for me at first it was like the amount of money that that wouldn't be my favorite thing, but it was like what I was able to afford after that, which I would travel the first few years that I started fishing, and just but it wasn't until a couple years later that it really became more about the people. When I started finding like my own group, and the people that I finally found people that I jived with. Now I think it's definitely more so about like the people that I'm friends with, and certainly not about the money. I mean, it's great, that's cool, it's whatever, but I've met some really amazing people. I met Kezia in Alaska when we were delivering. Well, we didn't deliver in Pelican, but we definitely tied up.
You were there.
We were there. We were in Pelican. We tied up when we weren't supposed to.
Yeah, I know.
And I met Mariah in Alaska too. And like so much has come from that, just like by her telling me about the QMed program and like where my life is taking me now. But so many great women. There's so many great women in this industry. And there's some great guys too. There's definitely great guys too. I do feel like there's a lot. It's more common to find a woman who's awesome than it is to find a guy who's awesome, just because there's just a ton of assholes to sift through. But they're there. They're certainly there.
I'd say my favorite part about being in the fishing industry I love the community. Obviously, I ended up with London. It's the one place that I actually feel comfortable. Like I know how things work and what's going on and how people make decisions. And I have a really hard time with the rest of reality. But my favorite part of it is I love proving people wrong. That's my favorite thing in the fishing industry. That's my favorite thing. Everybody, virtually everybody that I meet, judge me on my appearance. They judge me on sometimes the music that I'm listening to, and it's just really great when you're doing your stuff on deck and you're trying to talk to the captain that you're offloading, and the captain is ignoring you because he doesn't think that you do anything important. And then the captain will be like, "Hey," and he'll yell up at your captain, and then your captain will be like, "Don't talk to me, talk to her. Like she's the one doing everything. If you need something, you need to talk to her. I'm sorry." Like this is, and that's definitely, proving people wrong. They often come in with poor expectations, and it gives you a lot of room to accelerate upward and really, get out there and make a name for yourself. It was, I think last year I was prepping the Golden Pacific for a patch on the side. They hit a crack, and it's an aluminum boat. And we were in this skiff. I was prepping the area to be welded. I had the aluminum patch. I had my TIG rod. I had my torch. I had everything. London took photos of it. It was pretty sweet. I had everything ready to go. And this guy came up and was like, "Hey, if you guys need a welder, I can weld that for you." And I had my fucking helmet on. I had my hood on, like on my head. And I had all my gloves and everything. And the guy, Andy, the skip guy, was like, "Fuck off. Like, leave us alone. It's really obvious that we have a welder here. Like, why did you think it was acceptable to come up?" And it's just, there's just that weird part, I guess the masculine part of the industry just thinks that, okay, if you're short, you're a woman and you've got colored hair and tattoos, you must not be able to do anything. And it's pretty sweet when you get to trick people. You get to trick them into like, "Oh, okay, like maybe I shouldn't be such a dick to this person because later I might need their help." So I don't know. I like that a lot. That's my favorite part.
Cool. You're like a little coyote. That's your spirit animal. I
Sure.
know it's not water based, but that's the energy.
Oh, I'm afraid of water. I will not go in it. I'm terrified. Yeah.
Wow.
That's right.
That's wild.
Yes. Serious. Mm-hmm.
She'll canoe though. She will canoe.
With you, nobody else.
I'm a great canoeer. You can canoe with me. I used to teach it to Girl Scouts. So I got your back. I'll steer.
Look better than me.
Awesome. Mariah, what about you? What's your favorite part?
Oh gosh, well, they both said it so well. So definitely echoing all of those things. It's really about the community, but also the lifestyle that it can make possible. Seasonal work, travel in the winters. That's what I did for pretty much all of my 20s. Once I got out of college, you can work really hard during a section of the year and then go and see the world. So that's wonderful. But absolutely the community, the friends that I've made, through the fisheries. And I guess, yeah, just to build a little bit more on what Casey was saying, the fact that, gosh, I've had a couple of really good conversations with my dear friend Larry Alone is the lead instructor on the QMed program, and we've had a couple conversations about the fact that the best students in his class have very often been women, and in the past it was like 1 out of 12. The last 2 years it's been 6 out of 12. And also about half commercial fishermen, which is amazing. So people like London coming in and getting these skills they can bring back into the fisheries. But he asked me one time, he's like, and I don't know why it is. I'm not biased for or biased against the women in my class. Why is it that they tend to be the best students? This was before the fishing contingent had come in. And I said, well, you have to realize, Larry, women are not ending up in this industry by accident. Is that a cat?
Sorry. Sorry, the cat, the hairless cat.
Little Sphinx cat.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. She climbed it. I'm sorry.
I would have pet her. Anyway, right. So first of all, women don't end up in these positions by default. Whereas if you're a dude, there's a perfectly great chance that someone is going to come up to you and be like, "Hey, you have a dick. Clearly you can hold a wrench. Come to our QMed program." Or hey, you're a strapping young lad, come on aboard, surely you'll be great. Not necessarily.
Fishing shoulders.
Right?
Yeah, seriously.
Yes, exactly. And the other conversation was, he said he didn't see the same level of discrepancy in the numbers by gender in the commercial fisheries as in like his experience in the merchant marine realm. And he said, why do you think that is? And I said, I don't think that there are the same gatekeepers in the commercial fisheries that there are in many cases for people who are going through more traditional routes. Because by gosh and by golly, if you can go out and buy a boat and put to sea and hopefully learn from some mentors, you can become a successful fisherman. And that was the case with two of my best captains have been women, Heather Sears and Deborah Page, my first ever captain. And they both were like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to buy my own boat. I don't want to deal with the bullshit of being a crewman. I'm going to become a fisherman in my own right. And both did. That really, there's no one to tell you that you can't. Whereas most people I know, I mean, there's still very much tripping places that you might come across, but not at all in the same way as women I know who are rising through the ranks in the traditional merchant marine realm and really running into this deeply entrenched. Yeah. So I guess the fact that it is kind of still the Wild West of the maritime realm, which is dangerous in many ways, there's far less regulation. There's not as much infrastructure there as in other aspects of the maritime realm, can also have a tremendous positive as far as opportunity. And that's cool.
Cool. Right on. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for
I agree.
for taking some time to hang out with me. London, great to see your face. Kezia, nice
Great
to
to see you
meet
too, Shelly.
Yeah, it was super nice to meet
You
you.
have totally rad hair, and is that an actual palm tattoo? Is that you just like
Yeah,
just
it's an Icelandic fishing staff, believe it or not. It's for calm seas, plentiful fish, and no sea monsters. I have another
sea monsters?
This one, I'm trying to find it. That one right there, that actually is a H.P. Lovecraft symbol that wards off sea monsters as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that why you're scared to swim? Is that why you're scared of water, the sea monsters?
I'm afraid of water because I had several near misses as a child. Several, like 5. Utah, everybody loves 7 peaks in Utah, you know what I mean? So it's like take your child and drown them there. So yeah, I was in several boating accidents. My biological father runs commercial gold mines. So when I was a kid, I used to live on all these different mining camps in like Nevada and Colorado and Alaska. And we would have no water and no power in these camps, in the houses that in the camps before they were set up. And we often had to cross very aggressive, strong rivers. And my father is a very negligent man. And we ended up in several boating accidents due to that. So the fact that I work on boats is pretty insane. My mother thinks that I'm crazy, but it's working.
Wow. That's cool. Man, maybe during quarantine we should have coffee one morning. Sounds like you got some wild.
Yeah. I'm actually in Welch's. I'm in Oregon, kind of close to London. So
cool. Awesome. All right, cool. I'm done. Y'all can chat amongst yourselves if you want. I actually have some fish that I'm gonna put in the oven for dinner.
Ooh, yum. Is it salmon?
No, so Mark left this salmon in my fridge or my freezer. It's not good.
Oh,
it's like bad. So, but I also
yeah,
had
ours was bad too.
Yeah,
ours was bad too. He gave us a bunch, and it was like not
good.
We just thought it was because we were spoiled.
Yeah, but I think the piece I'm gonna put in tonight's cod. I've got just that one fillet of cod, and I've got like 3 fillets of halibut. So I'll probably make some halibut curry during quarantine.
Oh, yum.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds delicious.
Doing all the things.
Shit.
yeah, I'm gonna go back to crocheting, like it's the hat,
Cool.
crocheting the hat.
I'm gonna
So yeah, I just made a pair of overalls. So
Did you crochet it? Did you crochet
yeah,
your overalls?
yeah, they're pretty sweet. They're granny square overalls.
That's amazing. I want to see them.
Yes. Oh, here, look. I actually hold on.
Oh.
Find them. Out. Time cramps. Cat. Get the cat. No. Let's see. I'm trying. I have like good. Here's the front.
Oh,
Front.
Oh, they're just amazing, as amazing as I imagined.
Yeah, they're insane. I made them for my friend in Haynes, actually.
Nice.
So, anyways, there it is. I gotta go back to my insane cat lady.
That's magical and beautiful.
Yeah.